county, where some animosity simmers over their goals, the methods to reach those goals, and ultimately, where is the balance struck for peaceful coexistence? What are the perceptions of Lakewood's growth? What are its implications for surrounding towns and for the county? And what are the realities? To supply some clarity and to bring some sense of order to the misconceptions and to go deeper into this topic, we welcome into the Townsquare Tonight Rabbi Avi Schnall of Agudath Israel America. It's a candid discussion of the opportunities and the obstacles affecting people of every walk of life. Rabbi Schnall, thank you for coming in and helping to elaborate on this discussion devoid of the histrionics and of the emotion.
Thank you, Thomas, for inviting me. It is an honor and a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to talk about this topic, this important topic, with you tonight.
Let's start with the nucleus of Lakewood. It was on this very program almost 2 years ago that Lakewood Township Committee members first elaborated on the population and construction boom that is well underway now. So it isn't a sudden or random thing that's going on. Why there and why now?
So I don't know if I would call it a sudden influx in Lakewood. Lakewood has been growing for decades. Lakewood started as a small school of 13, 14 students in the late 1940s, and over the course of years and decades, it has grown and continues to grow, and God willing will continue to grow. People were attracted to Lakewood and continue to be attracted to Lakewood. It's a beautiful neighborhood. It's a safe neighborhood. There was recently a beautiful article in the APP about Lakewood goes luxe, the beautiful houses, the McMansions that are being built there. Real estate is definitely cheaper than it is in New York. There are schools, kosher eateries, synagogues. Someone that lives an Orthodox Jewish life is attracted to live in a city that can accommodate his religious needs, and Lakewood does a great job at it.
Population is now 93,000, and it's heading for the six figures. Let me get back to my original question. There are other enclaves. There are many places you can go. What brought Lakewood to the point where that's going to be the place where we're going to have well over 100,000 people and turn it into the largest city in New Jersey?
I think it's the attraction. I think it's that Lakewood is an attractable place. New York has a very large and strong Orthodox community, and that's growing. Williamsburg has a strong Orthodox, that's growing. Thank God the Orthodox communities across the country are growing. Lakewood is one of those towns that are growing. It happens to be that it may be unique. New York, Brooklyn, these were already urban cities that were structured as such. Lakewood was a small farm town decades ago and now has turned into this economic boom town with businesses and groceries and restaurants and schools. And I think it's a fantastic, beautiful thing. The amount of the economic growth that the state benefits by the businesses being grown is amazing.
What does this population growth signify from where you stand for people who are not Orthodox?
I think the growth should not be threatening and should not be alarming and should be as any other town or community that grows. Again, the town of Lakewood is a very, very safe town. The Orthodox community is, thank God, a very clean, safe place to live. If I had neighbors moving into me that I know that they're from a community that don't have issues with crime and don't have other issues, I'd be happy to have such neighbors. We're working people, we're hard workers, we're honest people, we're good citizens, we're an engaged community in regards to our civic duties. You see that in Lakewood. The committee members are Orthodox. The other government positions are many Orthodox people. We're a strong voting community. These are all pluses to have in a community. I would welcome such a community.
Rabbi Schnall, let's look at it from the perspective of a group of people who were once a minority in the township, who are now the majority. Was there a sense, now you've been here about a decade.
Yeah.
Did you feel a sense of marginalization at a time when you first moved here, when the population was not more than 50% of the township? And do you see at some point the risk of marginalizing people who are now the minority?
So I'll use one example, if I may. Like you said, the majority and the minorities, the Lakewood Township has about 30,000 children that go to schools. 25,000 go to private schools. 5,000 go to the public schools. So the overwhelming majority of the population of Lakewood send their children to private schools. About a year and a half ago, the public school buildings were in severe need of redoing the air conditioning and the roofing and all the other, capital improvements. And the Board of Ed did not have the funds available to support such a massive project. And a referendum was put out to the public. And the majority of the votes, again, are the Orthodox Jews that knew by them voting in favor of a referendum, I believe the number was about a $34 million referendum, would be a tremendous increase on their tax bill, hundreds of dollars for years. And the town, as a group, as a community, fully supported that referendum. That means me, as a parent who sends my children not to the public school system, I send my child to the private school system, I willingly, happily undertook to pay hundreds of dollars a year so that the public schools should have the proper air conditioning, proper roofs, that those children should be able to have the proper services they deserve. So that speaks a lot for a community about marginalizing or about majorities, minorities. I believe that the majority of the Orthodox community, look how well we're concerned with the minority of the community that goes to public schools.
Understood. Now, by the same token, we have the courtesy busing program, which has pretty much inverted itself at this point. Where it was a convenience, now it is a cost burden. Senator Singer has a bill in the legislature now, which, and I don't know that if it's been passed, but it would essentially take the cost of that and turn it into something that everybody in the state will wind up paying into. That would alleviate, I believe it's a $12 million issue for the Board of Ed, but is it fair to place that on everybody in the state?
So that's a separate question about, in general, let me just clarify one thing.
You brought up the schools.
Yeah, yes, I'll clarify. No, it's important, but I'm happy we brought that up because it needs a tremendous amount of clarification.
Okay.
Courtesy busing has nothing to do with private schools or public schools. Here are the facts. Courtesy busing is across the board. Whether a child attends private, parochial, public, doesn't make a difference. Any child that lives further than 2 miles, by state law, is mandated, entitled to receive transportation. Any child, public, non-public, doesn't make a difference, that lives within 2 miles does not receive transportation. If a district decides that they have a surplus and as a courtesy, they want to give it to those children, that's called courtesy busing. There are currently over 50% of the Lakewood public school system that receive courtesy busing. That means that when courtesy busing has been eliminated from the budget, it not only affects the private schools is in a tremendous amount of private school students will lose busing. We also have to keep in mind that over half of the public school children do not have transportation for next year. That means that you're going to have 3,000 students, it's about almost 6,000 students in the entire school district, a drop above 3,000, 3,035 to be exact, based on this year's numbers, are children that have received courtesy busing, which are no longer going to receive them. That means the public school system, half of the system, does not have transportation next year. So it's not about private, parochial, public, it's the children in general. Why does the state, why do some feel the state is responsible for it? The state has been responsible for suffering districts across the state. Atlantic City has a $30-40 million bailout that we're all covering. Newark is receiving every year tens of millions of dollars, more than any other district. You have the Abbott districts. If we look at the general picture, there are 590 active school districts in the state. 35 of those are consuming 60% of the entire school district budget. So we're all covering for the few districts. This definitely falls into that category to have the thought of between the 3,000 public school children and the 7 out of 25,000 private school children, 10,000 children in total, not having means of transportation to school will bring this city to a lockdown, will be a catastrophe. So the same way how Atlantic City was a catastrophic situation that required and everyone deemed valuable and appropriate a state bailout, this definitely falls into that category.
Rabbi Avi Schnall from Lakewood is in the Townsquare Tonight with us, and we're discussing the issue of Lakewood's growth, its ramifications within the town and outside its borders, too. I'd like to touch on that just a little bit if we can, Rabbi Schnall. We've had instances, we've had some pretty ugly instances over the past several months. Fortunately, while the Chabad case is in court, nothing is happening with that, and that has quieted down a lot of the hysteria. But the ancillary problem here has to do with the search for real estate. Lakewood is not zoned to rise very, very high. So if you can't grow up, the only other answer is to grow out. You can't deny that there were some high-pressure tactics going on. This has been pretty much documented at this point. Hence the backlash. Hence the don't sell signs. Right alongside signs that said, we'll buy your house cheap. And all of these things are going on simultaneously, leading ultimately to anti-Semitic graffiti in a Toms River Park, which really crossed the line. We just need to look at that for a second. Were you shocked that would happen, or did you kind of expect that sooner or later something like that was going to happen, given the circumstances under which it grew?
We were surprised that both things happened. We were surprised that there were, now I'll say it very clearly, very few, a minority, maybe a handful at most, of realtors that were overly aggressive. That did surprise us. That did bother us. There are dozens of realtors that are active all over Lakewood and Toms River and Jackson and other areas that have sold houses and bought houses and have arranged the sales of these houses in the most professional, accepting, friendly way. And people were so happy with the result. And it was very unfortunate that small handful of realtors did cross the line and really started this whole hysteria and really stirred up the pot. On the other hand, we were also surprised at the amount of the backlash and the strength of the opposition and the numbers of people that came to these town meetings and the thousands of people that signed petitions to shut down a Chabad house that's been around for 12 years where everyone had no problem with him. Everyone loved him, and they still love him, his members and his congregants. And 5,000 people signed a petition that he should be shut down, and 1,200 people show up to a town hall to discuss real estate tactics and discuss zoning laws and other things that are not of the most prominent and priority issues that are facing Toms River today. Both things were unfortunate and they were both shocking. And I believe that at this point in the game, much of the hysteria in general has really died down to a great extent.
Rabbi Avi Schnall of Lakewood is with us on Townsquare Tonight, and we're going to continue this discussion. We hope you'll stay with us right after this.
It's back! Run, bounce, and slide your way through the craziest fun run you've done. Back in 2016 with even bigger, wilder obstacles than before. The insane inflatable 5K returns in just a few weeks, and you and your crew are invited back to the bounce party. Bob and and weave through the madhouse, one of our most challenging new obstacles, and get your bounce on and slide on classics like Jump Around and Wrecking Balls. The celebration is on the midway afterwards, and we have games, food, photo ops, and even more this year.
The Insane Inflatable 5K is the most fun, wild, and insane obstacle run in the world. And this year is at the Drum Point Sports Complex in Brick on Saturday, August 20th. Presented by Community Medical Center, Route 37, Toms River, and sponsored in part by Ocean Orthopedic Associates, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, and Crunch Fitness. And after the race, stop by the Immediate Care Medical Walk-In Bumps and Bruises tent.
Check out all the new inflatables and register today at InsaneInflatable5K.com. See you on the course.
Are you currently retired or planning to retire in the next 5 years? Lou Scatigna here, certified financial planner, president of AFM Investments, and host of The Financial Physician, heard every Friday right here on WOBM-AM. I would like to invite you to join me for a complimentary retirement review. Safe investments like CDs pay virtually nothing, and the stock market has become a risky casino, but there are ways to achieve reasonable returns on your money without taking on big risks. Let me show you how. I will determine your net worth, find ways to maximize your income, and minimize your taxes. We will discuss estate planning and strategies to protect you from nursing home costs. Not retired yet, but have a 401k? Come in for a 401k evaluation, and I will give you specific suggestions on how you should be invested during these crazy times. As a bonus, you will receive a signed copy of my popular book, The Financial Physician. Make your appointment today by calling 732-905-8100. That's 732-905-8100. Securities transactions through Lee Baldwin & Company, member FINRA and SIPC. Registered investment advisory services through Agentis Advisors.
Tune in to News Talk Radio WOBM-AM 1160 and 1310 to see what loyalty will get you. Together with Meridian Health, loyalty can get you some of the best tickets to the hottest shows and events, plus retail gift cards or flyaways. Become a News Talk Radio WOBM-AM insider for exclusive health and lifestyle information, like recipes, tips, and screenings, courtesy of Meridian Health and News Talk Radio WOBM-AM 1160 and 1310.
Hello, I am Dr. Denise Johnson Miller, Medical Director of Breast Surgery for Meridian Cancer Care. If you or a loved one is facing cancer, nothing is more important than knowing you have access to the best physicians, the most compassionate care, and the latest technology and therapies. To learn how Meridian Cancer Care is building hope with expanded cancer services, or to find a physician, visit meridiancancercarenj.com or call 1-800-DOCTORS.
Meridian is proud to host a rockin' series of 7 healthy living events called Lyrics for Life. The event playlist will include topics ranging from healthy eating to fitness to sleep. It's Meridian in Town Square's way of taking care of New Jersey.
Now back to Townsquare Tonight on WOBM-AM 1160, 1310, and WOBMAM.com.
Welcome back. Tom Untethered with you, and in the Townsquare Tonight with us is Rabbi Avi Schnall. He is from Lakewood, and you're with Agudath Israel America. That's correct?
Yes, yes, Tom, yes.
One of the things that I wanted to bring out in this brief discussion is how do we mend these fences? How do we learn how to coexist, knowing full well that neither side or none of the parties involved really has full insight into other lifestyles, other ways of thinking, other beliefs, other religious tenets. Now, one of the things that I found amazing and enlightening, I learned through a representative of Toms River Police about procedure with an accident victim. And it was something that, it was just a sidebar discussion based on the amount of time it took for an ambulance to get there. I think you know the crash I'm talking about. It was an unfortunate one.
This was a very, very tragic accident that took place. And you're talking about the police department, the Toms River Police Department. And that's a great example of Tumat communities understanding each other, learning about different communities. After the accident, the Toms River Police was there immediately, and they were so sensitive, and we were so impressed by their sensitivities and appreciative in how professional they were, and they immediately recognized that this is an Orthodox woman, and perhaps there are certain religious procedures that we need to take or we don't need to do or we're not allowed to do. And they immediately contacted the Lakewood Police Department, they contacted the chaplains, they contacted the Ocean County Chaplains Department, and they said, what do we do? Tell us what to do. And they were so appreciative and welcoming for the phone call, and they immediately were there, the chaplains were there, and they were guiding them, assisting them, and the story ended out to be such a beautiful scene of community relations, of getting along, of people of different cultures living in the same town, getting along harmoniously, understanding that there are differences, and we'll learn the differences, and we'll appreciate each other's differences. And I think that's the ultimate goal, and I believe, God willing, we're going to get there, and the communities are getting there. And as you walk down the street, I've been in Times River many times. On Saturdays, we'll drive our cars on the Sabbath, and I'm walking, and there are individuals that are jogging, walking their dogs. Good morning, how are you? I get a good morning back. I say good morning, they say good morning. It's a friendly neighborhood. We're a friendly community. We want to get to know the Times River community, and we hope the Times River community is willing to get to know our community.
Rabbi Schnall, there's a certain way of living, there's a certain manner of appearance for the Orthodox faithful. It differs greatly from a lot of what you see on the street. I realize that this is something that can't be changed. How do you present this as something that should not be viewed as with suspicion? And how do you overcome your own suspicions of people who don't say hello to you? I mean, we have this issue of ignorance breeding suspicion, breeding fear. How do we get past that? How do you do it? How should we do it?
So like you just said, Tom, that ignorance breeds suspicion and suspicion breeds fear. So we have to get to the root of the problem. That's the ignorance. And that's education. And you know, I don't want to use the word I challenge, but let's talk about it. To the community of Times River, have we reached out to the new residents that have come in from the Orthodox community and asked them about their dress code and why they dress this way? And if they do say hello, they don't say hello, or do we say hello? Ask the questions, and we're happy to give the answers. And we have questions we might want to ask our neighbors as well. We're very, thank God we're here in Lakewood. We've gotten along with all of our neighbors. We're in many communities. There are Orthodox communities in Brooklyn, which is the melting pot of the world. You have all types of nationalities and all types of ethnicities, and thank God it works. And it's worked in Lakewood. And there's a lot of minority groups in Lakewood, and we get along. You don't hear of the stories that are told of other cities where the minorities have clashes and conflicts. So that's our history, that's our story, and we hope to perpetuate that into the other neighborhoods that members of our community are moving to.
So if I moved into an Orthodox enclave, would it be eyebrows up and there goes the neighborhood, or what?
It would be eyebrows up, but not there goes the neighborhood. It would be eyebrows up. Let's go meet this new guy that moved into the neighborhood. It's a big difference.
We have about a minute. I would like to open the floor for you. Anything else that you would like to add for this?
I think that the only, not the only thing, but one of the most important things to add is that to all of your listeners and viewers, that the Orthodox community that are moving into these towns are moving there because they love and they're attracted to the beauty of Toms River. They're attracted to the beauty of Jackson. They're attracted to the beautiful homes, the manicure. That's why they're moving to these communities, not to change it, not to make it something different. If they wanted different, they wouldn't have moved there in the first place. They want to be part of this community. We are an engaged community. We're an active community on a political sense, on a communal sense, on a charitable sense, and we hope and we want to bring that to any communities we move to. And our hope and prayer is that we'll be accepted into Toms River like we were originally accepted to Lakewood, and look how much that's grown, like we were accepted to Brooklyn, like we were accepted to all the other neighborhoods throughout the country where Orthodox communities are living and flourishing.
Rabbi Avi Schnall of Lakewood, it's a real pleasure, and I want to thank you for spending this half hour with us.
Thank you, Thomas. It was truly an honor and a pleasure.
Townsquare Tonight is a presentation of Townsquare Media New Jersey's Shore News Division. Our technical coordination and call facilitation is by Mark Anthony. Video and audio coordination by Bradley James and Tom Trendley. Programming consultation, Steve Artolino. Townsquare, New Jersey's Vice President of News Operations is Eric Scott. I'm Tom Mongelli. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next week.
This has been Townsquare Tonight, a presentation of WOBM News. To find out more about tonight's show and stay up to date on everything happening in your hometown, log on to WOBMAM.com. News Talk Radio, WOBM AM 1160 and 1310. We now join our regularly scheduled program already in progress. This is News Talk Radio, WOBM